Time for the Hobbit, bitch! Good day to you, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Hyper Song 55, and welcome to a very special review. I've been waiting to do this for the rest of life. 2012 is almost over, but before it decides to end, we got The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey. I've waited forever for this film. I thought that, after I'd seen the Avengers and the Dark Knight Rises, everything would be sorted in my life, but wait, we forgot about The Hobbit. So here it is. I just saw it in the cinema just a little while ago. You know what, I can't even get my words out because it was that awesome. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, The Hobbit is badass, and I'm going to tell you why in this review, because it's freaking awesome! So the story of this film goes a little something like this. The film is set 60 years before The Lord of the Rings and happens to involve a little hobbit known as Bilbo Baggins. And he happens to run into Gandalf, the great grey wizard. And they are like, interacting with each other, and Gandalf's like, do you want to come on an adventure with me? And Bilbo's like, nah, but then he's like, yeah! So then he happens to accompany 13 other dwarves led by the badass that is Thorin Oakenshield. And then they happen to go across Middle Earth to go about and reclaim the Lonely Mountain. Yeah, it's the Lonely Mountain. From Smaug, the badass dragon. And that is the story of the film without going into the area spoilers. Ladies and gentlemen, the story in this film is friggin' amazing. Now, it took a little while for it to get going, but when it started to get going, it was good. The train never stopped rolling. There was just story after story after story. There was a lot of plot lines going on in The Hobbit, but they all work relatively well, and you can see that some of them will intersect in the next few movies. I just like the way the story progressed. It was really nice, and for this first part of this trilogy, I was enjoying everything that I saw, and I cannot wait to see what's going down in the next movie. It was badass. So now let's talk about the characters of The Hobbit. Now, these characters are just insane, and we're just going to start with the bad man, title character himself, Bilbo Baggins, played by Martin Freeman. Now, anybody who knows Martin Freeman should know him from the brilliant Sherlock series on BBC. He was badass in that show. When I found out he was going to be Bilbo Baggins in this film, I was like, yep, they picked the right guy, and they picked the right guy because he was friggin' awesome. You see that Bilbo is a guy who used to like adventures, but he likes the quiet life. But over the course of the movie, when he joins the dwarves and then goes on this massive adventure, you see that he changes as a person, he grows, he becomes a much stronger character, and he was friggin' badass. He was really likable, he had a great charm to his character, and he was friggin' funny. I love the character. I thought Freeman was a great choice for the role, and he just killed it. It was cool. Alright, so now we're going to talk about my personal man of the hour, Gandalf the Grey, played by Sir Ian McKellen. Now, Ian McKellen for me is one of my favourite actors ever. I loved him in X-Men and I loved him in the Lord of the Rings films. And when he came back in this film, I was just like, yo, this is going to be badass. And it was off the chain, yo, because Gandalf was so badass in this film, it is beyond life. So yeah, Gandalf in this film, he was just really, really awesome. I love the dialogue that he had. He has so many moments of badassness that is just so much. It was just so cool. You thought that when he fought the friggin' Balrog in Lord of the Rings, it was just like, yeah, you thought that was the height of his awesomeness. Gandalf takes his height of awesomeness and then just elevates it to a whole new level in this film. So now let's talk about Thorin Oakenshield, played by Richard Armitage. He was just wow. If there was a definition of badass in the dictionary, that guy would come up there. Just a full illustration of his face, because he is that cool. Thorin is literally just one of the coolest guys I've ever seen in a film. He's just some badass leader of the dwarves that goes into battle and just kicks the crap out of anybody that comes across him. He's badass on and off the battlefield, and yeah, I just liked him. He was cool, and what else can I say? He was just the character that really had a great deal of screen time, and when he was on screen, it was literally just, yes, this guy is badass. He's the Don. He was wonderful. Good times. So then there's the other characters in the film that happen to be, our little friends from Lord of the Rings. You happen to see Galadriel show up, and Lord Elrond, and you have Saruman, and you got old school Bilbo Baggins, and then you got friggin' Frodo. Just seeing all these characters come back and just see them as youthful as they are in this film, it just brings back happy memories. You're just there nerding it out. If you're a Lord of the Rings fan, you're just getting fan service. It felt so good, and I felt so happy just to see these characters there doing what they were doing, living life and seeing them before the Lord of the Rings trilogy. It was really cool, it was awesome. And then last but by no means least, you have Gollum, played by Andy Serkis, and he's still as cool, as weird and as strange as he was in Lord of the Rings. Maybe even more so in this film. He was badass. All the scenes with Gollum was great. His interaction with Bilbo was fantastic. The whole scene with riddles was just, it was picture perfect. The humour in there was just lovely, and Gollum seems to be just a little bit more humanised than he was before. He's still very aggressive and just really fucked in the head, but like, he's still as great as ever. I still loved it. Serkis, man, you're killing it, man. Yeah, yo. Alright, so let's talk about the presentation of The Hobbit. Now, the presentation of The Hobbit is just insanely good. I mean, the presentation in both the visual and audio department just elevate to new levels of awesomeness. So let's talk about the visual presentation firstly. Now, Weta Digital went about and literally just killed it when the Lord of the Rings trilogy came out. They created CGI and special effects that were just out of this world, and now they just seem to somehow have outdone themselves. I've never seen such crisp and sharp CGI in existence for a long time. Everything was done to perfection. Even when things were just full on CGI and scenes were just going around and there was just a whole lot of action that was all CG and you could tell it was special effects and all that, it didn't detract from the movie. It still looked frigging awesome as hell, and the CGI in Gollum is literally just taking itself to a whole new level. I thought Gollum looked frigging awesome in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but now he looks so sharp, so crisp, so realistic. You could assume he was standing right next to you, right there, and it's just like, he's real, I could touch him. That's how friggin' realistic Gollum looks these days. And the cinematography in the film is still just as badass as ever. There were so many crazy camera angles and sweeping camera shots that were reminiscent of that of Lord of the Rings. And it's just taken it to a whole new level in this film. It's literally just, wow, just take me away, take my breath away. It was lovely. And the soundtrack, the audio, Howard Shore created a beautiful soundtrack in Lord of the Rings, and he happened to create some really, really great stuff in The Hobbit as well. He happened to use a lot of like the themes that happen to be in Lord of the Rings, but also incorporate themes of the new stuff in this film as well. Alright, so now it comes to the penultimate question. Is The Hobbit better than Lord of the Rings? And the thing is, it's hard to say because, you know, Lord of the Rings is Lord of the Rings, you know? It's one of the most amazing trilogies in existence. How can you compare? But the thing is, obviously, these two films share the same universe, so like when they coincide, you're going to have to go about and do some comparisons. And I'm going to have to say, yeah, Lord of the Rings is godlike. I don't think it can be touched. And yeah, The Hobbit sort of falls short of that same glory, but that does not mean that The Hobbit is bad by any means. I never read the book, so I can't compare it to the book. I'm just going to have to rate the film on its own merits. And based on what I've seen, The Hobbit: An Unexpected Journey is freaking awesome, and I still recommend it. Again, it takes a little while for the film to get going, but when it starts to get going, it goes and it never stops. If I had to give the film a rating, I would say probably around a 9 out of 10. I could never give this a perfect rating purely because it's not Lord of the Rings, because Lord of the Rings is perfect. But anyway, 9 out of 10 I think is still a pretty good rating. I reckon, yeah, go out and see The Hobbit. It's friggin' awesome. Lord of the Rings fans will be moved and they will be touched. I don't know how much you're going to like the film, you're just going to have to rate it for yourself when you see it yourself. So to conclude, ladies and gentlemen, The Hobbit: An Unexpected Journey was a lovely film. I thought there was not going to be another film after the Avengers that would take my #1 spot, but this film has literally just jumped into top place. The story was lovely, the characters were great, and the special effects were so clean, crisp, sharp, so colourful and vivid, and the soundtrack by Howard Shore was great. I loved the film, it was wonderful. I'm probably going to see it at least another 4 more times in the cinema before the year is out. And yeah, I may just attempt to see it in IMAX if I do get the time. Well, that's been my review, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully you found it informative, and I look forward to the next one when it shows up. So from me, the Hyper 55, this is me signing out, yo.